Hi, I'm Nate Sieber. Welcome to One Day Ahead. This is a video for anyone teaching Lord of the Flies. It supplements my free recap and analysis videos, which I hope you've seen, and it's going to walk you through the Lord of the Flies teaching unit you've either just bought or are considering buying from my website. Thanks, by the way. So what I'm going to do is run you through the teaching unit real quick from beginning to end. I want to answer your questions and help you identify what's like a fun thing you can do versus what's at the real center of the book in the heart of the unit. If you're teaching this and you don't know where to start or what to aim at, I am here for you. So let's dive in. My unit is packaged up in a few different formats. Do you want it all in one huge, long PDF? I got you. It's 155 pages. Please don't print it. You will also find editable Word files in a .odt file. It's like an open internet format thing that you can drop into Google Docs or whatever, and it'll work. Pick one. They are all the same. The files themselves are separated into stuff to do before kids read, during reading, and after. But that is the only chronology here. It is a la carte. Don't go in order. That said, some things are more la carte than others, namely all the stuff dealing with symbolism and the Socratic seminar materials. Symbolism and seminars, that is really what we are doing here. So pick one or both of those through lines and then supplement from there. I do both, I think you should too, and I'll be sure to point out that stuff as we go. So we're gonna walk in order of that PDF, and the first thing you'll find is survival in the desert. It's a fun kickoff thing. There's a whole scenario about a plane crash and the items you salvage. Students rank these items first as individuals, then as a group. Then we give them the expert rankings of those items and your docked points for the difference between your rankings and the experts. The sneaky valuable part here are the reflection questions at the end. It focuses on the dynamics that developed when they had to reach a consensus, and it jumpstarts the conversations you'll have later as the boys figure out how they will make decisions on the island after their crash. Next, what do you believe? It's pretty standard. It's a bunch of thematically resonant statements students agree or disagree with. You can also put up signs and make kids physically move throughout the room. You've definitely seen this. After that, we have symbol walkabout. This is one of those through lines I mentioned, something that forms the spine of the unit. So this book is a favorite of teachers because the symbolism is slap you in the face unmissable. And this activity introduces the concept of an item being more than it ostensibly is. You're going to do an activity where you put a bunch of pictures on larger pieces of paper. Then you distribute those pieces of paper around the room. Everyone gets a marker, requires silence. I put on music so it's not super oppressive. Students move around the room either in groups with a bell thing telling them to rotate or totally freeform. The pictures all have common cultural symbols on them and the students are going to talk about them, but it is all going to happen in writing on those posters. So they call things out, they ask questions, draw stuff, make jokes. It's fun. I lead with a question about symbols to get everybody's head in that general space, and then I end with them deciding on a symbol that represents who they are. Next, the pre-reading journal prompt is exactly what it sounds like. It's a fun question to consider, it gets them writing and arguing. And finally, the William Golding biography is a good way to get some context on the guy who wrote this book. It's not indispensable, but if you have the time, it adds richness and depth. It's a reading and a bunch of questions. And now we're gonna get to the other major through line of the unit, which is the next 20 pages. It's all the stuff called Socratic seminar something. This through line explores the foundational moral question at the heart of this book. Put simply, it's, are people fundamentally evil? Because the book's answer is pretty clear, it's yes, we push it a step further by asking, then to what extent should we hold youth accountable for doing evil things? I'm going to have you hold 2 Socratic seminars, one before, one after reading. I've given you all the prep materials, rubrics, readings, all of it. If you've done a bunch of Socratic seminars, go with what you're familiar with. But if you haven't done one before or you want to hear how I do it, I cover that exhaustively at the end of this video. And that's all the before reading stuff. Now let's move on to the during reading part. And this section is a real grab bag. In order, we have 6-word chapter summaries, which are straightforward in what they sound like. Then we return to the first through line with symbolic items. Tracking the symbolism in this book is broken into tracking and interpreting items as they appear in the text, and tracking the symbolism represented by the characters, which I found success actually tackling that part after reading. The items we target are the big ones: the glasses, the shell, the fire, the scar. How you use this resource really depends on your kids and if they are actually reading versus listening to some blowhard on the internet. You can have everyone track every item, you can put kids in groups and track them as a team, you can give one item to each kid and have them track and collect all the quotes related to that every instance it appears. It really depends on your kids. In any event, I gave you how I do it along with the answers to everything. Next, you'll find The Masks We Wear, which belongs right after chapter 4. It's artsy, it considers why Jack seeks out a mask to set him free. If you want colorful, slightly scary art along with light analysis, this is for you. The next 24 pages are chapter reading quizzes with answers. I don't use these, but I felt like it's the sort of thing you put in a unit. I don't know, I'm doing my best. What I do use, however, are the chapter reflections, which compose the next 24 pages after that. These reflection questions are great. Some are deep, some are funny, some are creative. They all spark conversation and can be adapted into whatever you are already doing to build writing volume and stamina. Next up, vocab. I pulled all the words students struggle with. You can assign them directly, cover them before you read, whatever works. I also have quizzes on those words if that's your thing. Now for the final section, after reading. This section opens with the final installment of that first through line, and this time we are considering symbolic people. This is harder for students than the symbolic items, and once again, you'll want to adapt it for your situation. I gave you a structure and the answers as I see them. Next up, the after-action summary. This asks students to imagine the bureaucratic forms that naval officer is going to have to file. Finding a burning island full of homicidal prepubescent boys is going to require some paperwork. My personal favorite is the next assignment. I drag in a bunch of Rick Steves guidebooks. We go through some entries so they can catch the general vibe, then they are tasked with making their own. I call it Murder Island. And this is when you could really blow out, turning it into a group project and making it the culmination of the whole show. Then we have 20 years later, which is a creative writing opportunity. It imagines a conversation between Jack and Ralph after they grow up. And finally, capping it all off, we have that second through line again, a final Socratic seminar exploring the moral questions at the center of this book, this time asking if Jack should be held legally responsible for his actions. And that's it, and that was a lot. I hope you find this helpful. So the final thing I want to do is double back and walk through the mechanics of how I run a Socratic seminar. There are lots of ways to do this. This is just what I do. The first thing you should know is I treat these things as a very big deal. I talk them up, I make them a challenge, and I invest a couple days to prepare. The focus here is on oral communication skills and small group dynamics, and you can see the Common Core standards we are addressing. The way I do this is a fishbowl. Basically, everyone has a partner, and one teammate is in the inner circle where students are actually having the conversation. The other one is in the outer circle. They are tasked with supporting their inner circle teammates. You are observing, scoring, and absolutely not participating. The whole point is that the seminar is run entirely by the students. The inner circle prepares to address a common central question, which you will find on the Socratic seminar prep sheet. We give them common readings for students to consider, and they can bring in information and opinions from other sources. We spend at least a class period on nothing but prep, and I keep my standards super high. No one wings this. If they show up without the prep sheet fully completed, I kick them to a makeup seminar later. On the day of the seminar, the inner circle kids hold that conversation. The outer circle partners have the score sheets. Ultimately, I am grading here, but the outer circle uses them to get their partner as high a grade as they can. Inner circle kids are asked to participate, provide evidence, ask questions, be respectful, all the things. Halfway through, like maybe 10 minutes, but it depends on the group size, we take a 2-minute coaching break where the partners check in and see how the inner circle kid is doing. So it's like, okay, you are tracking the conversation. I saw you pose a question and you elaborated on Rebecca's point, but you haven't actually cited any evidence yet. They're talking about Jack right now. Let's find a really good quote that you can use. I find this approach really helps students who are reluctant to jump in. They have prep sheets, reading materials, ample opportunity, a coach, and clear objectives. When the seminar is completed, so maybe 20 minutes, everyone turns over the prep sheets, the circles switch places, and we run it all again. Now, last thing, I've found it super effective to let the students come up with that second Socratic seminar question. Once they get what we're doing, they submit questions to consider and the class votes. I provide the guiding questions and some anchor readings, but this is their thing. I also don't tell them which side of the prep sheet they're going to be using in their seminar because I want everyone to prepare both sides so they can be a really good participant and a really good coach. And that's it. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, and helping students see the world through someone else's eyes. We'll see you next time on One Day Ahead.